The Florida Podcast Network, the voice of Florida.
From Mallory Square in Key West to the Governor's Mansion in Tallahassee and all points beyond, you're listening to the Florida Beer Podcast, powered by FloridaBeerBlog.com, your source for all things related to the craft beer community in the Sunshine State. And now your host, Dave Butler.
Welcome to a very special four-part series coming to you live from Titusville, Florida. This is the Florida Beer Podcast, powered by FloridaBeerBlog.com. This is Dave, your host and author, and I am living in a brewery. Not really living, but I'm staying in a brewery. Not really staying in the brewery. I'm actually staying above the brewery. We're coming to you from Loft 305 in downtown Titusville. It is a Airbnb that is owned and operated by Pekala Brewing, directly above the hardware store, their original facility. And beneath me is a rollicking group of beer-loving aficionados enjoying the last days of Pekala Brewing's 7-year anniversary festivities. I can hear them. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear them since this Shure MV7 microphone is so amazing. So I do want to thank our sponsors, Mainline Marketing, for hooking me up with this incredible piece of podcasting equipment. And you can find them online and in our show notes. You can also find our social media handles in our show notes. So make sure to follow us at Florida Beer Blog on Instagram and Twitter. We're at FL Beer Blog on Facebook, and obviously online at FloridaBeerPodcast.com, FloridaBeerBlog.com, and on the Florida Podcast Network at FloridaPodcastNetwork.com. Now, on our way up to Titusville, we stopped off in Lake Park. And if you don't know what Lake Park is, if you've never heard of it before, I am not shocked. It's actually home to 2 breweries right now, hoping to become a third in this sleepy little hamlet in northern Palm Beach County. One of those breweries is Coastal Karma, and we recently sat down with owner and brewer Charles Chase to talk a little bit about brewing in Lake Park, how they're hoping to help support and transform the community into a vibrant, thriving atmosphere for local artisans and businesses. And the most important thing of a brewery, that is the brewery cat known as Kismet. Make sure to crack a cold one open and enjoy. The last time we spoke was obviously on the live show that we did, and one of the things that you mentioned was wanting to come to a place like Lake Park. What was it about Lake Park that attracted you? We'll start with that.
It's in a good area, and it's in a growing area, and we wanted to make sure we were in a growing area and not just an area that was already too developed and or was not really interested in developing. Some areas they like to stay where they're at, you know? Lake Park wanted to promote more businesses and get more people to this area, so that kind of fit what we wanted to do as well.
And in that time, you had mentioned that Lake Park did have an aggressive growth strategy. How has it grown? Has it done what they wanted to do? Have they been able to? Because obviously there was a pandemic and things kind of...
That kind of halted things a little bit, but they have broke the ground on the new condo that's going up by the water. And we've had a couple new businesses come up, and we've definitely got a couple more businesses in our plaza as well, which we didn't have a year ago. So in that sense, things are getting better. I'm not 100% sure how the residential area is doing, but the people that we know of that are regulars here are still here, and we have seen some new people that live in the area coming to our place as regulars now too. So,
and where do the regulars come from? Because we are close to downtown West Palm. And so technically we are in Palm Beach County, but we're really close to the county line, and that county line starts at the Treasure Coast. And I've even got my beer on a coaster for the Treasure Coast Beer Fest that was just last week.
Yep. Yeah, we consider our locals and regulars mostly from Lake Park, and then a little bit from North Palm Beach and Palm Beach Gardens. Jupiter is a little far from most people. They're not typically our regulars, but we see them maybe once a week, but not as like regulars. And then West Palm is, we get them on the weekends, but not during the weekday, the people from West Palm Beach. But we're mostly North Palm Beach Gardens, and Lake Park.
Awesome. So. And with that very small geographical area, are there people that are just coming for a good drink and a good time, or are you seeing a beer culture start to cultivate in that very specific area?
It's a mix. Like, there's definitely the craft beer people that love craft beer. They love going to breweries. And then there's that element of people, they just want to go somewhere fun and relaxed. And one of our main compliments, other than our beer, to be honest, is just how awesome this place is. The ambiance and the atmosphere of it is what people love to death. And they're like, how'd you get it? And I'm like, I just wanted it to feel like you were in your living room or you were home.
Which is really funny because a lot of these decorations I actually had in my apartment in grad school. If you've never been to Coastal Karma, it's very nautical.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of want to ask because I was not expecting such a, and I don't want to say just nautical because obviously when you talk about Florida, the initial imagery is more surfer dude, Margaritaville. And this is a lot more Nantucket.
Yeah.
Sort of, I guess, what was the inspiration behind that specifically? Because you went a very specific way with the Maidenhead, with the ships, with the nautical charts. It's a very different vibe than a stereotypical Florida coast location would be.
Yeah, Florida coast isn't mostly ships, right? It's the surfer thing or fishing.
Pretty much,
it's not about boats, really, or sailboats or anything like that, whereas Nantucket is more about sailing and boating and the old love for the sea kind of thing. And I take to that more than I take to, I guess, even though I was a surfer, I love old ships and old boats, and the sailboats and the galleons always impress me. And then being the part that we named the brewery Coastal Karma, it's supposed to be a mix of coastal things, which should be ships, beachy. When you look around, there's fish, and there's a map of Sanibel Island and boats everywhere and stuff like that.
I like that Hey from the movie Moana is situated in front of the map of Sanibel Island, but it fits perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah, I love Hey. He's funny, but and he is on his little boat. And then the karma part came from just we wanted to give a lot of back to the community and try to help as many people as we can, whether it's individuals, businesses, charities. It's been tough because of COVID and everything like that. Everybody's kind of struggling. We're trying to do the best we can and the most we can, but I feel like when things really get back to, let's just say, quote unquote, normal, then I feel like we can really start to help more people. But we're doing the best we can for what we have to work with right now. But the brewery was the passion for me to brew beer and stuff like that, but it's also a passion to help others and try to form relationships with the area businesses. And you can always make more or get more if you all work together. Then if, like the competition thing, it always shocks me because I'm like, and that's how breweries see it. Breweries always don't see it as competition because the more the merrier, right? Because you can make more if you all
tide
find
floats
together.
all boats.
Yeah. Whereas restaurants always see this as like a competition thing. But sometimes I feel like, well, certain restaurants, why don't you try to work together? You might get more people. You might make more money working together than actually being in competition with one another. And we're trying to get Lake Park to be more of like getting people to the area. We're trying to come up with a Lake Park card so that you get like, if you shop here at the area businesses, you get 10% off, and things like, and I talked about that a long time ago, like bringing in, we're trying to get it as a card now, but I talked about like if people bring in receipts from area businesses in Lake Park, we were going to give them 10-15% off their bill, just for spending their money in Lake Park and stuff like that. So
it's kind of an amazing, very, very local centric sort of opportunity. That's kind of awesome. How was the community reception when you opened and when you tried to give back? Because I've spoken to a number of other breweries that they do want to be community focused, but there's always going to be some people in the community that only see alcohol and see the devil's liquid and not want somebody like you, regardless of who you actually are, to be a part of the community based on their own sort of biases.
We've been lucky because we've had zero negative feedback, or there's never been a board meeting or anything like that we've gone to, or our town hall meetings where there's ever been anything negative said. I mean, this community loves having us here. We love being here. They love their area businesses. I feel like a lot of people understand property value. And that if they can make Lake Park a happening place to go to and a fun place to go to, their property values are going to go up.
Okay.
And I feel like they kind of get that. So having a brewery here along with Kelsey City Brewing as well and Nobo soon in the next year just increases their property value.
In here, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It becomes a place where, like, you know, as much as we're expanding as a culture and all that, we're traveling and all that and seeing other places, it's still very, not the right word, but the communities are very strong, centralized, meaning they want to stay in their community, right? When people go out that live in that community, they really want to stay in that community. But if you don't give them any reason to stay in the community, they're going to go support some other community, right? And I feel that's what Lake Park's trying to do, and that's what we're trying to help them do, is to keep more Lake Park people in Lake Park to spend their money, obviously, and have a good time. And then same thing with maybe we draw a little bit from North Palm and Palm Beach Gardens, which are right down the street from us, you know, and have a place where people feel like that's their home spot. That's where they can go. They don't have to travel 5, 10, 15 miles to go be somewhere cool or to be somewhere happening. You know, they can just stay right home. And I know people like to venture out, and that's good too, but the mainstay of things, you want to keep your community strong, is to have everybody hang out in that community. And that's how you form a community, right? If everyone keeps traveling and no one ever's hanging out together in the community, then they don't get to know one another.
I can think of some cities that are down here in South Florida that are like that. It's basically just a place for people to lay their head, and when it's time to go do something, they go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think Boca's like that. West Boca.
Weston more for me, because Weston is very much...
Weston's a good place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. They built that community, though, you know?
Mm-hmm. Do you see that happening very, very soon in Lake Park? Has it already really happened, and it's just advertising it to the rest of the world that, hey, this community's already here, we already love it here, you just don't see it because we don't have the glitz and the glamour?
It's starting, but they still have I think a couple more years to go, you know, before, and maybe even 3 to 5 years before they get it to where they really, really want it. But it's growing, and they're right now they're making the right moves. Now it's just a matter of does it pan out, and does it get to where they foresee it to go? And if it does, then well, we're all in anyways. But you know, we're hoping it gets to that point. But I definitely feel like they're in the right direction, but it's definitely going to take a couple of years for them to get to, I think, where the city sees itself and where they really want to be. And then, unfortunately for Lake Park, they start off on the wrong foot. This was not a great neighborhood for a long time.
And that, I think, is the traditional air that Lake Park is trying to fight against?
Yeah. And you know how, like, the word of mouth or the initial... Yeah, look at Wynwood. Way back when Wynwood Brewing first went to Wynwood was not a nice area.
You did not want to be there.
Nobody wanted to be in Wynwood, and you didn't walk around Wynwood. If you go to Wynwood now, 8 years later, almost 10 years later,
it's like Disneyland.
Everybody's walking around. There are restaurants, clubs, breweries, everywhere, and everyone's out. Everyone's having a good time. Everyone's walking around that whole entire place. People aren't scared to drive. They're not scared to walk around. And so they're the model that everyone, I think, tries to copy in a way. Like, if you want to see a model of a place that was in the dumps and was not such a great place, and you're there at that point where you see your place, your community is not that great, you can aspire to be that, and it can be done, you know? And I think a lot of cities would benefit from talking to Wynwood and see what exactly how did you go about it? Not like you just put a bunch of restaurants in and all that stuff. It's not about that. It's about getting the right restaurants in there, the right owners of these businesses in those places, to be honest, you know. And Wynwood was able to do it. He did an awesome job. So
yeah, absolutely. There is obviously a danger to bringing in the wrong people, and not that they would be bringing in bad businesses, but bringing in more corporate businesses to where it becomes less of a local sort of vision and more of a global monetary sort of vision. Do you think that Lake Park is the right community to bring in the right local atmosphere and keep the corporate sanitization at bay?
I think their main goal is to get the mom and pop shop places in here family-owned entrepreneurs. But when you talk about a corporate and them coming in with money, I think everyone kind of bends the knee at times for certain corporates because of the money they can bring in the area. But that aside, I don't think that's the direction Lake Park wants to go. They want to keep it more mom and pop. They want to keep it more where they say it about our place sometimes, like, you guys are like Cheers, like everybody knows everybody's name and stuff like that.
Let's be perfectly honest.
That's how Lake Park kind of wants to be in the end, I think.
And let's be perfectly honest. We're sitting here recording right at the entrance to your establishment. People are coming in. You're waving hi to every single one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, that...
We know most of them.
Exactly.
To be honest, one of the coolest things that I never thought was going to happen owning a brewery is how many of our regulars or people that come in 2 or 3 times a week have become our friends, my wife and I's friends, and then on top of that, they become friends with other regulars at our brewery, and then the next thing I know, we're going brewery hopping with so-and-so, and I'm like, those are our friends too. Like, how come we didn't get the invite? What's going on here? But we formed so many new relationships through this brewery, and I see other people at this brewery forming new relationships with those people too, and it's something I never thought actually... I never thought about that, just in general, and I see it here, and it's been awesome to watch. Just how many people, and it's my thing that I'm always like, and see how Coastal Karma brings people together. Every time people are like, yeah, I'm hanging out with so and so, I'm like, yes.
That's kind of awesome. You're sort of like this matchmaker almost, kind of hanging in the back, maneuvering the strings. Now, is there, since it is you and it is Kelsey City, do you have the regulars that are just you and Kelsey City has their regulars, or is this always stop number 1 before or stop number 2 after?
The only reason I would say we're stop number 1 more or less most of the time for people in this area is 2 things. One is Kelsey City, even though it's Kelsey City Brewing, they're still under the banner of Brewhouse Gallery. And Brewhouse Gallery has been here a very long time. So people feel like they've already been there.
Okay.
So when they want to come somewhere new or somewhere they haven't heard of, they would come to us first. And then, believe it or not, the other thing is the word of mouth and things like that, I think have helped us a lot too with people coming in here. We have a couple regulars that work at other breweries in the area, and they tend to promote when people are brewery hopping and stuff like that, and that has helped out a lot because we get people saying, oh, so-and-so sent us over here after we went to their spot. So
interesting.
That has helped us out a lot as well.
And so obviously let's talk about the beer because we've talked a lot about everything else, and it is all important, let's be perfectly honest. But when you decided to open up a brewery, what kind of vision did you have for it? Did you want something that was going to be kind of the hype train magnet, because we have a lot of that here in South Florida? Or were you looking to specifically make Lake Park happy? And if everybody else is happy, then that's great. If not, see you later.
Brewing wise, I think when you first think you want to open a brewery, you're just doing it because you love making beer and you just want to make good beer. You're not overly like, oh, I'm just going to make IPAs, or maybe I'll just do dark beers, or maybe I'll just do Belgian styles. And so some people may. I just didn't think I just want to make an array of good beers, and have a little bit of everything. I don't want to be pigeonholed into one thing or the other. And then as I decided I wanted to be a brewer and own a brewery, I did it differently than probably I'm going to go with anybody else.
Okay.
And that's
a big word.
So my first thing I did when I decided I wanted to own a brewery, besides home brewing and reading a ton of books and trying to learn as much as I could because I wasn't going to go to school for it, was taking my beers to festivals and getting what the public opinion, not my friends' opinions. And all my friends were in the beer industry at the time, and I value their opinions, but they're not the ones at my brewery all day buying beer. It's going to be the public. So going to festivals helped me out a lot. The next thing I did was I went to work for World of Beers to understand more about beers, because believe it or not, they had like a 3-week program of beer school program. They teach you about all the beers. You got to remember, they were serving 500 beers at the time.
That's a good point.
And you had to know all the styles. You actually had to know every beer they had in there. We had to know, even the new kegs that came on, what state and what city those beers are from.
Interesting.
Every single one of them.
For a new keg, would they pour out a sampler so everybody was able to try it? Okay, interesting.
So we had to know all that stuff. And then from there, I went and I worked for Brown Distributing as a craft beer rep for the Treasure Coast area.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. And then after that is when I finally opened my brewery, and seen the retail side, I've seen the distributing side, and I, even though I was a home brewer and I never brewed on a major system or anything like that, I had friends that had, and I've talked to them and stuff like that. But that was probably the only side I hadn't done yet. So that was the only factor that was kind of a question mark. Can Charles learn this system very quickly and understand how his system works very quickly? And to be honest, I think by the second or third batch, I had the system figured out. I knew how it worked. By the fifth or sixth batch, I knew how much to add or take away from something to make a difference in the beer.
That was a good question, because obviously scaling from a Mr. Beer kit or, the 5-gallon bucket to, what do you have?
5 barrels.
5 barrels?
Yeah.
That's a big jump.
Yeah.
And it's not just about multiplying everything by the same amount.
Yeah. There's certain things that I follow, and I found that if you follow these things, even though the beer may not come out as a brewer the way you want it to, first try, it's always going to be good, and people will like it. And then you just tweak it to where you want it from there. But and I noticed that everybody follows different rules, because I just brewed with Yeasty Brews for their anniversary party, and we did a beer together. And their brewer Dan, when I was there and everything like that, they have a 3-barrel system, and I think we were doing like a 2-barrel batch on the 3-barrel system, and the way he brews is just completely different than the way I brew in a way.
Interesting.
But it was good to see, and they make good beer. So I can't argue this style. I'm just like, I could never brew like you do. I have to take pH, and I have to understand everything that's going on with my water, and there's just certain things I have to do. And I talked to him about it. He's like, I just don't worry about it. Everything comes out fine. I'm like, and that's the key, right? If everything comes out fine and the way you like it and it's good, don't mess with it. Don't fix what's not broken, right? So, but with me, I'm just like, I could never do that when I brew. It would freak me out.
Yeah, it seems a little nerve-wracking, shall we say, just sort of letting it go to fate, shall we say? So what are you making for them? Or with them? What was in the tank right now?
We are doing a maple IPA.
Sounds
so
awesome.
I made a maple IPA this is like 8 years ago.
Oh.
I had this hop company. It was a Canadian company, and it was at a convention I went to. And it's a Canadian hop company that makes that grows hops in Canada, and they gave me a ton of samples of all their hops that they grow.
Nice.
And so it was 7 different hops.
Okay.
I took all 7 different hops, and I made an IPA for a festival. This is when I was homebrewing.
Okay.
And I made a beer with it, and I'm like, these are all Canadian, and I even tried to get Canadian grain too. I'm like, I'm gonna do Canadian grain. We're gonna do. I got the Canadian hops. There's no such thing as Canadian yeast, so we'll just get a regular American 05 yeast. And I go, well, I'm gonna make a Canadian IPA, but what does everyone see Canada as, or like the main like product, right? And it's always like maple syrup or something.
Yeah, exactly. Either
and
that
I'm
or
like,
Tim Hortons coffee, but you know,
hey. And so I'm like, I'm just gonna make a maple IPA, and I did, and it went over really well at the festival that I took it to. A lot of people liked it. Some beers I do, and I enjoy making them, and I'm interested in making them good, because it's not an easy beer to make in a way sometimes. Like a maple IPA, how do you make that good? And it's like, well, you do have to understand the ingredients and how they work together, but I see it as a novelty beer, right? But when you take it there, and we got a huge response to it, like, this is really good. People loved it. They kept coming back for more. It turned into like, maybe that's not a novelty beer. Maybe it just works. If you if you do it right, it just works. So it worked. Unfortunately, the funny thing is, I've never made it again. But when Yeasty Brews came to me and they said, we want to brew a beer with you for our anniversary, and he's like, what do you want to do? And I listed like 3 or 4 different beers that we should do, and the maple IPA was one of them. He's like, let's do that one. I think that's the most unique one.
That's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
It sounds really good. Hopefully, I'll be able
we'll see
to
what
make
happens.
It. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it seems like you've got some interesting things that are on the menu right now. The beer that I had to definitely try was the Pickle Juice Goza, which is incredible. And I guess if you really think about it, it makes a lot of sense. This is not the first time that I've seen one. I think this is the first time that I've tried one. Where do you put pickle juice into that? I mean, is that secondary?
So somebody brought us a pickle beer from Texas, and it was good, but it was like drinking pickle juice. I was like, wow, it really is like pickle juice. But it's not offensive. It's interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, wow, I love this beer. You should make one.
Okay, there you go.
Well, one, I don't know if I want to make this one. And then 2, since you said you liked it, I really don't want to make this now. No, she's actually really, she loves sours and dark beers, so she's always a good person to go to sometimes for that. But she had something. I don't know what she understood about the pickle beer that she liked so much, but she did, and I go, all right, I'm gonna make one. And we do put it in after fermentation and everything, when it's in the bright tank is when we do it, basically. I'm not going to disclose where we get our pickle juice from, but it's actually dill juice. It's not even pickle juice. It's just a dill juice.
Interesting.
But we get that from a certain company.
All right.
When you drink it, yes, I want it to taste like pickle juice up front, but when you finish the beer, I want you to feel like, yeah, that was a beer. The one that we kind of were influenced by, it just seems like all pickle juice.
I think I know exactly which one you're talking about. I was just in Dallas. I think. I
don't feel like I had an actual beer in a way, even though it's good. I do like it. The effervescence and the carbonation on it is what makes it palatable and drinkable and enjoyable to a point. But I'm like, I don't feel like I had a beer though. It was just pickle juice. Whereas I feel that ours does give you a hint of like, yeah, that's a beer. That's a beer. It tastes like pickles, but it's a beer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It tastes partially like pickles, and then partially it's got that classic Goza fruit-forward sort of flavor and the saltiness, which is really great.
And that's just getting the blend right, really.
Yeah. One of the other recipes that you have that I'm interested in contains hemp.
Yes.
And not only is that interesting to take a look at that, but you also have a merchandise cabinet kind of behind you with a lot of hemp and CBD and things, and that is starting to explode in popularity. Is that just a natural progression of the people that are interested in craft beer that would be interested in trying those? Obviously we're going to sidestep the issue of medical, recreational, which I support anyway, so...
We actually have a license for CBD now, so we can actually put it in the beers, but it is very expensive, so we do not.
And is that sort of a gimmick? Or is there something to it that you would?
Well, the weird thing is CBD is supposed to have a mellowing effect, right? A calming effect. And if you have 1 or 2 glasses of beer or wine, it's a depressant, so it's a calming effect already.
You're right.
So now you're putting CBD with it. I don't know. How do you maybe if you have CBD in it, it keeps people from having too much anxiety, where beer might not take the edge completely off. You'd really have to research it, figure it out. But for me, I use hemp seed in certain beers from time to time. Not so much gimmicky, but hemp seed has a lot of protein in it. Okay. And so I put it in the mash mostly, and I get the proteins in it. And the proteins help with the mouthfeel, a velvety mouthfeel.
So
gives the beer a little bit of heaviness.
So it's a lot like oatmeal?
Yeah. Yeah, you can just... mash in at 148 to 150, which is kind of a lighter. But when you add the hemp seed, now you're going for like medium body, to even like full body. Just depends on how much hemp seed you put in it. We made a Hemp Mango IPA. And people loved it. It was delicious. We called it Hemperfy. And it did really well. But I noticed that the hemp seed in the fermenter gave it a more nuttiness. And... it was more prevalent in the beginning, and over time it mellowed some more, but it wasn't offensive nuttiness, but it was just like this, what is that? And then you're just like, oh, it's a nuttiness, but it was a nice nuttiness to win with it. We toasted the hemp seed when we put it in the mash tun. I did not toast it when I put it in the fermenter, but I would feel that the more you toasted it, the more nuttiness you're going to get from it. And we only put 15 pounds in the fermenter for 5 barrels, and it definitely gave us some nuttiness, so... if you used more, maybe it would give you a different flavor or different aroma. It just depends on how much you want to use. But
interesting. And it's kind of funny because we just had a dog that came in, which is fine, but even listed on the door, you are not the most famous person here at the brewery. And I don't think we can interview the most famous person here at the brewery because they are currently asleep.
Is his name Kismet?
I do believe so. So let's talk about the awesome, and how much I love brewery cats.
All right.
Kismet is the brewery cat. Why do we have a cat?
Believe it or not, we have someone right now who did it earlier today, interviewed me with Kismet and about our brewery and having a brew cat. Channel 5 News.
Okay.
He's doing a feel-good, like 10, 15-minute movie on Kismet. To try to get into Northwestern's, it's not film school, but it's like TV and
like
entertainment
communication,
stuff like that. But you have to submit like 10 minutes. So anyways, he met Kismet one night here, and he's like, I want to do it with with the cat and then present this to Northwestern and see if I can get in.
I don't care about your beer.
I actually did that earlier today.
So I am not your first interview today.
No, you're
wow.
Yeah, we're getting famous around here apparently.
That's kind of awesome.
But so Kismet came to us as a stray one night. He was about 7 pounds. My wife found him outside hovering around our barbecue truck, and he just walked in the brewery. And my wife's great at picking up strays, so we fed him. Like she was getting him a vet appointment like right away. So the third day we had him, he goes to the vets, he gets cleaned, he gets a bath, and they clean him up and they check his ears and everything like that. And they also run tests on him, and it comes back that he has stage 4 kidney disease. And they think he's like 7. He's got stage 4 kidney disease. He's lost sight in one eye. He's got a little bit of nerve damage too on the same side that he lost sight in the eye, and he was chewing on his arms and stuff. Oy. So we go, so what's the plan? And they said, we're going to put him on some medication. We're going to give him IVs 3 times. And that's about all you can do. And hopefully it'll reverse a little bit, but it won't go away. But it'll reverse a little bit, we're hoping. And we put him in onesies so he couldn't chew on himself. So he was walking around in onesies all the time. Great look for him, but I don't think he enjoyed it. But the other people did. We were feeding him about, believe it or not, he was eating like 5 cans of food a day.
That's wow.
Cats only normally eat 2, if that.
Yeah.
And these are not small cans. He's eating 5 of those a day for like the first 3 or 4 months that we had him. Like he was eating us out of house and home. But we had a collection at the front for him, and people were putting 5s, 20s, 10s in that thing all day long. Just they would see him and they were like, this is for Kismet, and we want him to get better. And so it was a little bit of a charitable effort by our regulars and a lot of people that came in here to help him out. And it went towards his vet bills and it went towards his food. And 5 months later, after we had him, they wanted to check on his kidneys again to see where he was at, see if things were getting better.
Uh-huh.
And my wife called me and she said he has normal kidney function.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so I was like, because typically stage 4 kidney disease, he's 7. He would only live another year or so.
Okay. And how many years
2
ago
at the
was
most.
this? Huh? How many years ago was this?
No, this was just 5 months ago. But he's 7, and so we were like, oh, well, if he's got stage 4 and we take care of him, maybe we'll get another year or 2 out of him. That's awesome.
Yeah.
At least we'll get another year or 2, and he's going to have a great life. And then it comes back that he's normal kidney function. So he's going to get checked up every 4 or 5 months. He'll get checked, see where his kidneys are. But right now, he gets IVs once a month or once a week just to maintain and give him a little help, a little boost, so we don't go backwards again. And other than that, he's like my best friend. Every time I brew in the back, I got a chair back there for him, and he lays in his chair and watches me brew like he's a supervisor. And then when I come in the mornings and feed him, sometimes I'll watch this TV over here and I'll lay on the couch and he'll just lay on my chest the whole time almost. Like, he does it pretty much every time. It's just a matter how long does he do it. Sometimes it's the whole time I'm laying down, and then sometimes he lays down for 10, 15 minutes with me, and he's like, Dad, I think I'm going to go check out over here. And he goes and does his thing. And then he'll come back and lay on me again sometimes. But wherever I go or whatever I do, he follows or hangs out with me usually. And then when I take him to the vets to get his IV, and then I drive back here, I park in the parking lot, open up the back door, he walks right out. Open up the door to the brewery, he walks right in. I'm his chauffeur, basically, I guess is what it is. And when we have the back door open to the brewery, he just walks out. He'll explore, do his little thing, come right back in. He has no desire to be back outside again in terms of being a stray.
That's kind of awesome.
It's awesome. Like I said, fortunately, maybe unfortunately, I don't know, but he's my best friend.
That's kind of awesome. So obviously we know what he's going to be up to. What's next for Coastal Karma?
We're going to start distributing. Yeah. We're going to pick 5 to 10 places to distribute, maybe 12. It has to be a static line. We're not doing the whole, you have us on 1 week and you don't have, I'm not really worried about, I think the beer stands for itself. And I know there's a lot of good beer out there right now, but the program I want to run, I want to promote the place that we're at. But I feel that if we get static lines in places, then I can promote it here. Yeah. People will always know where they can find my beer. Yeah. And I can't make a lot, so I can't just throw it everywhere and just hope for the best. It's like we got to have these certain places, and we have to know how much is going out all the time. It's
very strategic.
Yeah, and I want to know. I want people to know, like, oh, if we go here, they're gonna have Coastal Karma on. They're at least gonna have Karma Hoptra. We're only gonna do Karma Hoptra IPA, the Kolsch, and then we'll do like a seasonal or like anything extra that we have around that you want to pick up, you can pick up.
Okay.
So we can, and that gives you. But typically, if they have one line and they pick up something extra that has to be on a second line, they can't replace the one line with whatever the extra thing is.
That makes sense.
We'll see how it goes. I still got to negotiate and feel it out when I get out there. But being a distributor, I just saw this, and I get it, man. If you're making a ton of beer and you're throwing it into the market, you can't ask for specific lines all the time. I mean, you can with certain places, but the fact that we're making a smaller amount and all that, it's just the way I have to do it for now. And it's the way I want to do it and grow it. I want to form a relationship with my customer who's buying from me. And that means I want to promote their business here as much as they're promoting me by having me on their tap store there.
Yeah.
And we're going to try to get them the sign so people know that we're there and all that, and maybe some coasters or something like that. We're getting some money together so we can start this venture out. But I have to start going and talking to some places. I got a list of places I'm going to go talk to and see if I can get us in there. We already have a couple locked in, so that's good. But we're going to talk to some more. And I know a lot of people in the industry, so that helps a little bit. But still, the beer has to stand on its own. But I know that when we have had events at certain places, it's done really well. So I'm not overly concerned about that. But I know the owners out there could be when they take on a new product. But
absolutely.
I think what helps us a lot, unfortunately, in a bad way, is that Due South is closing in December 19th, and it opens up a lot of handles that I think we can sneak into some places that they may not give us a chance normally, because they got to find something to replace the Due South handles, unfortunately, for Due South. So
yeah, absolutely. But hopefully one of those places will be World of Beer, so you can kind of come full circle with where you started.
The one down at Coconut Creek.
Yep. Hey, that'd be awesome. Well, thank you so much.
It's the only one left.
Oh, yeah,
or at least around here in this area.
Yeah, you're right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I will let you go back and check on the kitty. I'm
all right.
sure
thank
she's
you
still
so
asleep.
much.
And thank you.
It's been great. Thank you so much, man.
Hello, this is producer Jemmy, founder of the Florida Podcast Network, here to thank our partner, Mainline Marketing. Great equipment can make the difference between an ordinary podcasting experience and one that is immersive and inspiring. The sound quality produced with the Shure MV7 podcasting microphone is simply far superior to other options on the market. The voice isolation technology will help you sound great, even when you're not in an expensive studio. But not only is the sound quality simply unreal, but the Shure MV7 podcasting mic is very easy to use with 2 output options. So whether your show format and setup call for you to plug your microphone into the USB port right on your computer, or to use it with an XLR cable into your mixer, you'll find the setup is easy. The Shure MV7 sound quality is top-notch, and it's easy to use, versatile, and also looks really great for your social media shots. So thank you again to Mainline Marketing. Having won over 40 various achievement awards, Mainline Marketing has been the go-to audiovisual manufacturers industry rep since 1987. They can be trusted to bring you the best. Visit mainlinemarketing.com today and partner with them. And be sure once again to check out the MV7 podcasting microphone from Shure by going to shure.com. That's SHURE.com. Shure, turning a passion for making great microphones into an obsession.
When I left Coastal Karma, Kismet was behind the bar, making sure to supervise all of the brewery staff and do everything that he thinks is possible, which means a lot of pets. Want to thank Charles for his incredible hospitality. Coastal Karma is a great, fantastic place to go. Wonderful beers. Definitely recommend that you do so on your way up or down Interstate 95. But I was going up, and so the next couple of episodes are going to be coming to you from Melbourne at the Rocky Water Brewing Festival, where we were able to chat with a number of people from up and down the east coast of Florida. Make sure to listen to us and like and subscribe to the Florida Beer Podcast. You will be the first to be notified when those episodes come out. And in the meantime, enjoy, thank you, and drink Florida Craft.